Hi, thank you for joining Paralegal Rainmakers Fall Summit. We have a great lineup of information to bring to you about finding a paralegal career niche. So before we get started, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Lakeisha Beeler and I'm the founder of Paralegal Rainmakers. So this particular presentation is actually a two-part presentation, and it's specifically about paralegal career branding. So we're first going to start off with discussing what branding is, because you may be familiar with brands and brand names, but you may not understand how that relates to you as a paralegal. So we're going to discuss what branding is, and then we're also going to discuss what branding is not, how branding applies to careers, and specifically how you as a paralegal can apply it to your career, and then harnessing your strengths. And then we're going to talk about some ethical commitments that paralegals have, which will help with the branding of your career. So first, let's start off with discussing what branding is. An effective brand strategy gives you a major edge in increasingly competitive markets. But what exactly does branding mean? Simply put, your brand is your promise to your customer. It tells them what they can expect from your products and services and differentiates your offering from that of your competitors. Your brand is derived from who you are, who you want to be, and who people perceive you to be. And this definition was taken from entrepreneur.com. So as you can see, it's related to a business, because a lot of times that's what businesses used to compete with other companies and services that offer the same thing that they do. So it's a good idea just to have a basic understanding of branding in a business context, and then we're going to discuss later how you can relate it to yourself as a paralegal. But basically what branding is, it's a way, it's a strategy to be able to determine what it is that you're offering and what makes it so special. Because oftentimes you are not the only one, or a company is not the only one that's offering a particular type of product or service. So there has to be something that makes an employer, a customer, a client, someone want to employ you or purchase a product or service. So this strategy is basically about making yourself stand out from all the others that are offering the same thing as you, because you can be a great paralegal, but you're not the only great paralegal. So branding is about being able to focus in on exactly what it is that you're offering to an employer, and then being able to harness your strengths, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. So we just discussed what branding is, but it's also important to understand what branding is not. It's not advertising. It's not marketing. It's also not easily created. You just can't pick up tomorrow and say, okay, I want to be known as a legal research guru. Well, it takes time to be able to create that, because you have to know what you're doing. You have to know legal research systems, shortcuts. You also have to be able to be a better legal researcher than someone else, or have some type of technique that you utilize that other individuals do not, because there won't be anything that sets you apart from someone else that's offering the same thing as you. So it's not easily created. It takes time to be able to build a brand. Like Nike just didn't become Nike overnight. It takes time to be able to create that, because a brand is only as important as how it's perceived by those that are purchasing that particular product or service. A good brand is also not easily duplicated. If what you're offering can be easily duplicated, then you don't have a good brand. You have something like a store brand. Like you can go to the store and you can purchase Oreo cookies. Now you have different companies that make that similar type of cookie. You also have the store brand. Well, if you don't brand yourself, or a company doesn't brand their service properly, then what you'll have is something that's easily duplicated. but a good brand is not. So as a career, we're discussing now branding in a broad overview, but we're going to later get into the details of a career. But I just wanted to give a understanding of what branding is, so then you can start to shift your way of thinking of how you can use this same strategy that companies use in order to differentiate themselves and to remain competitive. And also individuals, we're going to talk about some individuals a little bit later where they branded themselves. So we're going to use that same strategy that companies and well-known individuals use in order to brand your career as a paralegal. Branding is also not easily maintained. Once you create a brand, in order for it not to become duplicated or for it to become watered down, you have to maintain it, meaning you have to do things to keep it fresh. Like, say for instance, I mentioned before being a legal research guru. Well, there's always another feature coming out in the popular legal research programs, but there are also other companies that are coming out with legal research methods, things to do it quicker. Technology is always advancing, so that requires you to stay on top of the different feature changes, different products that are coming out, because if you want to be known as that legal research guru, it's not about just knowing one legal research program. You will want to know all of them. You'll want to be really efficient at a certain aspect of it, but in order to be a guru or the best at it, you have to know all of those. So it's something that's not easily maintained, because you have to continue to stay on top of feature changes. You have to stay on top of new service offerings that are and companies that are providing legal research products, so that you can stay on top of advancements and improvements. So now let's just talk about some branding basics. Let's just start off from the basic level as far as how you view brands right now. And so right now we're just going to go over a few well-known brands. First, Ben & Jerry's. Like, when you think of Ben & Jerry's, what do you think about? You know, Ben & Jerry's they've branded their ice cream. They're natural. They're also not just an ice cream company, and they want people to know that they're involved in the community. They're very interested in the environment, and when you go on their website and read their mission statement, it has language in there as far as their commitment to the environment, but they also have a separate link about their activities in the community. So they don't want to just be known as an ice cream company. They want to be known as a socially responsible company. And their brand and what they do, the product, the ingredients that they use, how they create it, that's all part of their branding. Then also there's well-known brands like Nike's. You just say the word Nike, and you automatically create an image of in your mind about great tennis shoes. I mean, nothing else has to be said. Just Nike. That's it. That's branding. They branded their tennis shoes and all the other products that they offer. Same thing with Apple computers. Apple has done an excellent job with branding their products, their iPhones and iPads. They're constantly coming out with new product improvements because they understand that technology is constantly changing, and in order to stay competitive, they're constantly coming out with improvements. Well, that's all part of their branding strategy, to be new, to be abreast of the new technological changes, and to be able to incorporate those changes within their product. Also, Louis Vuitton. You say Louis Vuitton, it automatically, you see images of glamour. This is what people think, glamour and prestige and all these things that are related to Louis Vuitton. Well, that's a brand, and that's something that they work to create. And also with Mercedes, same thing, luxury. You think of luxury, you think of certain things when you just saying the word, when you see a Mercedes car. But these are all brands, and these are all excellent examples of companies that put a lot of effort and time into branding their particular product, whether that's ice cream with Ben & Jerry, tennis shoes or sports attire with Nike, or technology products like iPads and iPhones with Apple. And then also with Louis Vuitton, their bags and all the other accessories that they create. And then with Mercedes, with their vehicles. Another great thing about branding is that a good brand, actually, a lot of times you'll notice they have symbols related to, like, their logos. When you see a particular logo, you think of that company. You don't even have to say the word. You just look at that logo or that image and you know what it's relating to. Like Ben and Jerry's, you'll usually see cows. Like when you see the cows, another company uses cows in their advertising too, Chick-fil-A, but Ben and Jerry also uses the cow, too, in a lot of their advertising, and it has become associated with the Ben and Jerry brand. And then also with Nike, the swoosh. When you see that swoosh, you know what it's related to. You know it's related to Nike shoes, and there's something that you associate with that swoosh. Same thing with the apple. You see the little bit off apple, and you automatically associate that with technology products or Apple's technology products. And then the LV. When you see that, the Louis Vuitton, that you see that symbol, you know it's related to Louis Vuitton. And then with Mercedes, when you see the symbol, it's related to Mercedes. But you'll notice that a lot of companies have symbols, or their logos are very well known. And some companies, you may not even know what their logo is, because their branding has not been as I'll say as advanced and as well done as some of these other companies like Nike, Apple, Louis Vuitton, and Mercedes. And as a paralegal, we're going to talk later like why this is important, because great branding means that everything associated with that particular product or service is something that when an individual sees that particular logo, whatever it is, they are actually associating something with that, whether that be luxury, whether that be glamour, whatever it is, whether that be social consciousness, it's something that's being associated just by looking at that symbol. So that's what you want people to think about you when they see you, when they hear your name in the office, or they see the attorney you're working for or someone you're working for, when they see a document or a particular brief that's put together and they see your name on it, they automatically know, okay, I know that this is a well put together brief. I know this is a thoroughly researched case because they see your name on there. So that's the thing. You want something to be connected with that. If you want to be known as a legal research guru or whatever the case may be, as we're going to talk about paralegal niches later, but you also want to be known in a particular practice area. If you specialize, that helps with that branding process. So again, branding is just about creating a product or service in such a way that when people see the name, when they see the logo associated with it, you have created what you want people to know about it. You don't allow people to define it, but you're actually defining that for them. Like Louis Vuitton, they define their company. They want people to associate prestige and glamour. Same with Mercedes and Apple. They created that. They didn't allow consumers to create that for them. They created it, and now consumers, when someone purchases those products, they automatically have confidence that that particular product is offering that glamour, that technological advancements, whatever the case may be. And that's all a part of a career, which we're going to talk about now, career branding. Now, these are some of the most influential, the most popular people on, I believe it's Forbes 2013 list. Of course, Steve Jobs, he's no longer alive. He passed in 2011, so he's not on the top of the list. But I put him here because he was awesome with branding Apple. He did an excellent job with that company, worked really hard and branded it, and just was well known for how he ran that company. So I put just 3 well-known individuals that have done an excellent job with branding their careers. Oprah is one. She started off with news and news anchoring, but she's a communication just maven. She's wonderful. She's built up this great company around her strength, which is communication. Also with Lady Gaga and singing, she's done the same thing. That's her career. She is well known in her career, and she's branded herself excellent. When you hear the name Lady Gaga, you automatically associate certain things just by hearing the name. And the same with Steve Jobs. These are individuals that have used branding strategies in their careers, and it's paid off. So how does this relate to you as a paralegal? Branding is important because what it allows you to do is to stop looking at your job as just that, a job, but start looking at your job as a part of who you are in your career overall. So then that will require you to start shifting the way that you think about your career and the way that you handle things. I'll give you an example. If you are assigned a project at work, when you are thinking about branding as far as your career and that everything you do is going to be associated with that, you want to do that the best way that you can. So if that requires you to have to work overtime, if that requires you to have to do it over again, that's what you'll do, because you want that particular brief or that particular task that's been given to you, you want it to be done as best as possible, because you know that it's a reflection on not only on just your job but on your career overall. Another way to be able to start rethinking your career and be able to incorporate branding into that and brand yourself is to specialize. That's, one of the most effective ways to be able to brand yourself, because you are creating for yourself what you want to be known for. Like, let's say, for example, you are a e-discovery paralegal, and so individuals, that employers or people in your office or your association, whatever the case may be, they know that you are an e-discovery paralegal and you have specialized. You spent time honing your craft in that area as far as going to litigation e-discovery conferences, staying abreast of changes in the e-discovery field, everything that has to do with it. You've put the time and effort. Just like I mentioned before, that branding is not easy because it requires you to be able to do something. It requires you to have to stay on top of changes and maintain it. So the easiest way to be able to brand yourself or to set yourself apart. So when I say brand, just think of setting yourself apart. When you are wanting a job, when you're wanting a particular position in your company or organization, just think of branding in this aspect of setting yourself apart and what that is going to require you to do. And again, the best way to be able to do that is to specialize or become an expert. And that takes time, and it takes a lot of dedication to be able to do that, because you have to research, you have to attend different educational events just so that you can stay on top. You have to, a lot of times you have to further your education. You'll learn that to be a specialist, which we'll talk about some commitments later that you can make to yourself in order to assist with your branding strategy, is to be able to become an expert. Just specializing is important, and we'll talk about commitment, making a commitment to be a continuous, or I call it a lifelong learner. Learning never stops when you want to be a specialist or an expert or good at, great, not just good, excellent at what you do. You have to be a lifelong learner. And then you also want to create effective methods to set yourself apart in your field or organization. What do you have to do to be able to set yourself apart? Does that require you to volunteer for some extra assignments? Does that require you to start a group, a working group at your organization? What is it? Does that require you to create some type of checklist or something that you can hand out to everyone in your office once you find a quick method to do something? What does that mean for you in your space, where you are, in your particular field? But creating a method, because again, you can specialize and you can rethink your career, but if you're not doing anything, if you're not taking any actions to be able to make it visible to those that can then assist in your career development, then it really doesn't mean anything. And so what I mean by that is, you can be a great expert or great at something, but if you're in your job and you're not volunteering for things, you're not letting your employer know about those skills that you have, then it really is it's useless. So you have to come up with some creative, some effective ways and effective methods to be able to set yourself apart, but to be able to demonstrate that within your field and your organization. Now, I've discussed specializing and becoming an expert, but before you do that, you want to be able to determine your strengths are. And I think this is important because some people, like say, for I gave the example before about with Lady Gaga, career branding with Lady Gaga and Oprah and Steve Jobs. You'll learn that all of these individuals, they just didn't wake up one day and just start doing that. Like Oprah just didn't wake up and like, oh, I'm going to be a news anchor. I'm going to be a communication person. When you start learning about these individuals, and Steve Jobs, he went through so many just different ups and downs, getting Apple up and running and getting it where it is today, that it's going to require that same type of effort on your part. But if you learn what your strengths are, you can harness those strengths to be able to help you to specialize in a certain area. Like say, for instance, if you're very good at numbers, you may want to focus on a practice area that allows you to be able to use that particular skill set, because that will help you be able to specialize in something that's related to that. You don't, and it's important because you don't want to go into a practice area and try to become an expert at something that one of the functions that is a part of that job is using, that it's very reliant on something that you're weak in, because you'll never be able to become a expert or be the best in that area because you're working in an area that utilizes a skill that you're weak in. Now, you can always develop skills. It's like a muscle. You can work a muscle and make it stronger, but why do that? Why not start off with something you're already strong at? Because it'll put you ahead of the game. So you want to determine what your strengths are and then work in a practice area that utilizes those strengths. And a good way to be able to determine what your strengths are is take career assessment tests. You get these online. You can take them in career centers. If you're going to college right now, they have these a lot of times in the career offices. Go online, go to the library, check out some career books, take the career assessment test to determine what your strengths are. And then ask those that know you well, because you'll notice that you'll start hearing people say the same thing about you over and over. Oh, you're so good. You're a very good speaker. You're great at that. Oh my God, you're so good at putting those figures together so quickly. But if you hear this over and over again, or you ask people and ask them what they see that you do well, that allows you to start picking up on what your strengths are. Or take some courses. I mentioned before that if you're not strong in an area, you can always take courses on it and become more proficient at it. Or obtain a certificate or a degree. Same thing. Instead of just, taking isolated courses here and there, why not get a certificate or a degree while you're at it? Great way to be able to specialize, and then also a way to be able to demonstrate to your current or future employer or clients that you're a specialist in that area, because you're showing them that you have obtained training in that particular area. Now, with paralegal career branding, we've discussed branding overall, what it is. We discussed career branding and then determining what your strengths are. But let's just focus in now specifically on paralegal career branding and how you can do that. Because once you determine your strengths, you're going to be in a better position to brand yourself and create a career that's focused on your strengths. And that's all a part of paralegal career branding, because you want to, if possible, work in a practice area that you can use your strengths. Now, there are in order to brand yourself. I mean, it's a good idea to go into an area that is developing, because it allows you to be able to go into a career. A lot of times there's a lot of body of knowledge already built in that particular area, and then there's also job opportunities, because at the end of the day, you're branding yourself for a reason. You're branding yourself to be able to set yourself apart in your career. So it's a good, good to know what the trends are right now. These are some of the paralegal career trends, or the hot areas for paralegals right now. E-discovery is huge for paralegals because of all the technology advancements and the cost of e-discovery. That paralegals can play a huge role in the e-discovery process. There's even associations. There's association of certified e-discovery specialists that offer certification to become a certified e-discovery specialist. So when we talk about specialization, that's a way to be able to specialize, or to demonstrate that you're an expert in that particular area, to get a certification. But e-discovery is a huge area because of technology, because of the different laws that are being implemented around e-discovery and e-discovery processes. Also, elder law, because of the aging of the population. Now you have the baby boomers now. So a lot of them are now in the position in their life where they're needing legal assistance because of the aging process and things that occur because of that. So that's a huge area for paralegals. Corporate paralegals. There's a post on the National Federation of Paralegals website about paralegal career trends in different regions, though. And so corporate paralegals is huge just across the board, but I know here in California, corporate paralegals are sought after. Intellectual property paralegals, because again, technology and just the creation of just different technology products and things of that nature, just products, period, business. Things are changing. We're now a pretty much like a flat world. Like, you can communicate with people in different parts of the world, but you can also do business with people in different parts of the world. So that's creating intellectual property issues, that there's needing to be legal professionals involved in that particular process because of the way of globalization and the way that we do business now. Litigation paralegals are also going to always pretty much be in demand, those skill sets that a litigation paralegal has. So these are all career trends, hot areas for paralegals to go into. So if you don't have a specialization right now, these are some good areas to think about going into. So follow the trends. Follow them so that you can set yourself up for success. At the end of the day, branding is done in order to be able to create success. That's what it's about. So you want to follow trends, and that's what these companies do. They stay on top of trends. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to switch to that area. So let's say, for instance, now you may work in, let's say, family law. You may enjoy working in family law, so you may not want to get into a different area. But if you stay on top of trends, then you may see an area that's expanding or changing that you can incorporate into your career as a family law paralegal. I'll give an example. E-discovery is hot right now, and that's an indication of something. It's an indication of the technology advancements. So as a family law paralegal, you can gain insight about what's changing and what's going on the legal landscape based off of the trends, and then understand that technology is advancing. So you as a family law paralegal can then go to be proactive in your career by advancing in technology yourself. Learn a new technology product or a skill that you can bring to your job or your employer. That'll help set yourself apart as a family law paralegal because you've enhanced that particular skill. Or with elder law, it's always going to flow over to a lot of times family law areas, things that have to do with that. So again, if you're staying on top of trends, then you'll start to notice that under those trends there is something that you can be able to get a clue as to what the changes that are going on overall that can impact your career or help you be able to determine what you may want to, brush up on, or whatever the case may be. Again, technology, elder loss, the aging population. You'll notice that, there's issues related to that can flow over and spill over into your career as a family law paralegal. So just stay on top of trends. It's not just important to go into that particular area, but to see how it may impact you in your particular specialty area. And embracing technology. Branding, you can do all the branding you want and become great at a particular practice area, but if you don't embrace technology, you will be left behind, because every practice area is going to rely on technology at some particular point. You don't have to be an e-discovery paralegal to understand the impact of technology in the legal profession. So just embracing technology will help with paralegal career branding. If you can set yourself apart just as that, even just that alone, not a practice area, but just to be a technology savvy paralegal, you're going to set yourself way apart from other individuals and other paralegals in your particular organization, or those that are competing for a job that you may want outside of your organization. And these are some paralegal career niches, and that's what the summit is about. It's about creating a niche, going into a niche for yourself, specializing so that you can set yourself apart. So we're going to discuss, we have some speakers that are going to provide information, presentations, resources that you can use, and also we're going to have some chat sessions set up with some different presenters about some of these practice areas so you can get an understanding of it in more depth. So here's some a few paralegal niches are e-discovery, elder care, freelance paralegals. That's a niche because that's a totally different area, and the other considerations that come into play when you're a freelance paralegal. So we're going to talk about all of these a little bit later on in this presentation, but we also have some information available that you can access to learn more about some of these particular niches. But again, freelance paralegals, intellectual property, and also paralegal nurses, these are all niche areas that you can go into. So what is an intellectual property paralegal? This is just a basic definition that just was obtained off of a basic web search. IP paralegals interview people who will testify in cases or experts such as individuals well versed in specific types of technology being disputed in an intellectual property case. Paralegals also fill out necessary paperwork such as patent applications, research similar intellectual property cases, and may handle some clerical duties like filing. This is just a really basic description of an intellectual property paralegal, but pretty much is an intellectual property paralegal deals with just that: intellectual property, trademarks, patents, copyrights, trade secrets, intellectual property. They specialize in that particular area. Some may just deal with the specific area, like some are patent prosecution paralegals and they just deal with patents. Some deal with copyrights, and some may have to work with all three. But intellectual property paralegals deal with intellectual property and the different aspects, whether that be litigation, filing applications, docketing, whatever that is. That's what an intellectual property paralegal does. And this is a huge area right now. And it's actually one of the highest paid areas for paralegals. There's the Paralegal Today magazine, they do the annual salary survey, and they'll publish those in their magazine, and they just did their 21st annual salary survey. And so out of the top three highest paid specialty areas, and these are for paralegals that are working in a law firm setting, the highest paid were at the top of the list first was environmental law, because that's becoming a huge area too, but that's a whole nother thing in itself. So we didn't really go into that here, but as far as pay, environmental law was the top at $67,250, and then commercial law came at $66,687, and then right up under that is intellectual property at $65,455. So that's pretty good for a paralegal, and that's one of the top 3 highest paid specialty areas for paralegals that work in a law firm setting. So that's huge. I said, it's an area that is growing. It will continue to grow. And again, one of those reasons for the growth in the area, because of globalization and because of technology and us being able to do business across the waters. So that's pretty much like a basic description of intellectual property paralegals. But you also want to listen to the presentation by Violet Ang she goes into more detail about intellectual property, and she also teaches courses on intellectual property. So there's some resources that are available that you can find out more how you can learn about the different training courses and certifications that are offered from IP Institute. But this is just a basic view of intellectual property. Now, if you want to go into this area, then typically it's good to have a corporate or business experience or education. It's not necessary, but it's good because, again, you want to harness the skills you already have. You want to work in an area where you can use those strengths that you already have. So if you have business experience or education, that will help you be more effective as an IP paralegal. Then also you want to you're going to need some exceptional just technology skills to be an IP paralegal, because a lot of times that's what you're going to be dealing with. Even if it's just knowing the language of technology, it will help you a lot in this particular area. Now, these are just some job functions, like if you're looking to go into this particular area, to know what to expect, like what you will be doing as an intellectual property paralegal. First, you'll be researching and compiling information pertaining to national and international intellectual property rights. And I mentioned that before about international, because of the fact that the globalization in doing business in different countries. So you'll be maybe working with businesses in different countries, government agencies, because of filings and things of that nature, treaties. You'll have to have a knowledge of that, because a lot of times that'll come into play when you're dealing with intellectual property in different countries. And then procedural matters in case law, including the Layman Act and the Restatement of Torts. And then also unfair competition and copyright infringement action. So I mentioned before that it would be good to have some business experience, because you'll already have an understanding of some things like unfair competition and some business practices. Also, as an intellectual property paralegal, you also prepare status summary reports for attorneys and clients, coordinate international filings with foreign law offices and or other foreign entities, and maintain a docket system of due dates for actions, and assist in intellectual property related litigation. So now we're going to talk about paralegal nursing. And we're going to try to see if we can get, all of our presenters that we've used for our summits, they are working paralegals. So that sometimes we have to share our time, so sometimes we have to be patient with getting them to be available for chat sessions. But we're going to try to have a paralegal nurse conduct a chat session so she can explain more about paralegal nurse and how someone that's interested in going into that particular niche can do so. So here I'm just going to try to provide as much as possible, so if you're wanting to know more about it, you can get a basic understanding of that. And then at the end, on the resources, under the resources page, there's a link to the American Association of Legal Nurse Consultants, which pretty much they're the same thing as legal nurses or paralegal nurses. So if you want to learn more about nurse paralegals or legal nurse consultants, you can find out more about that. prior to setting up our chat sessions. So a paralegal nurse is a paralegal who helps an attorney with cases related to the medical field or with cases which involve any type of medical information. A nurse paralegal may work for government agencies, law firms, insurance companies, or hospitals. In fact, a nurse paralegal has a varied career because he or she is being sought after as specialists in this field because they have a skill set in the medical field and the legal field, which is huge. Like if you're working on personal injury cases, that's an awesome skill set to be able to have, because you'll understand the medical terminology and be able to analyze the different medical reports and things of that nature, where other legal professionals wouldn't be able to do that, or your firm or organization would have to hire an expert outside of the office to be able to do that. But now they have you as that expert in that medical terminology and understanding of different reports and things of that nature. So also, many companies will call on a nurse paralegal's extensive knowledge in the medical field so that he or she can immediately determine the fault in a certain case. I mentioned the personal injury cases. If you're dealing with medical malpractice suits or anything of that nature, then being a paralegal nurse will help you be able to work more effectively. And actually, you'll be sought after because of that, because you have a skill set that's rare. It's very rare to be able to have both skill set. I know a paralegal nurse she was a presenter at our summer summit, and she discussed a little bit about that and her experience and her knowledge. So we're trying to make that available too, so you can just get a basic understanding of paralegal nursing, what her experience and what her career path was into getting into paralegal nursing. Now, the paralegal nurse strengths, like if you either want these strengths now or you want to develop them. Medical or science background, if you already know that, if you've been a nurse before, you're going to have that background, which is going to help you become a paralegal nurse. Detail oriented because of the review of different medical records and things of that nature. Organization is a must. It's a must for every paralegal, but especially so with paralegal nurses, because a lot of times they're dealing with a massive amount of documents. A lot of times it's more than a regular paralegal, because all of us deal with a lot of documents in the legal field, but paralegal nurses are dealing with medical records and things of that nature. So being organized is a must. And then analytical, being able to analyze different reports and data. Now, here are some paralegal nurse job functions, like what you can expect as a if you're going into this field. You'll be interviewing clients and witnesses, and you'll probably be relied on more so as a paralegal nurse because of your understanding of medical terminology and different, medical reports and things of that nature. So you'll know how to and what questions to ask a client or a witness. So you may be used more in that particular process as a paralegal nurse than a regular paralegal would. Also, job functions of a paralegal nurse are researching and organizing medical records, explaining medical terminology to other legal professionals, because legal professionals, although we're great at being able to read and understand just various different areas and things that we may not have the knowledge of before, if you already have that understanding, it helps you so much more. So a lot of times paralegal nurses will be explaining medical terminology to other people in the offices, like attorneys and other professionals that are working on a case. Also will help with trial preparation assistance, and comes into play a lot. I know our paralegal nurse who we were going to have present at the summit, this is one of the reasons there was some a couple scheduling conflicts. Because of that, she was called to assist with trial. So a lot of paralegal nurses are called to help with trial preparation and assistance because of the skills that they have as a paralegal nurse. There's also paralegal nurse certifications. If you want to go into this area, You can get certifications and also degrees from different colleges and universities. They have them at private companies that offer certification programs. And then you can also get on the job training if you've already been a nurse. Again, the paralegal nurse that presented on our summer summit, she was a nurse before she became a paralegal. So she used that knowledge she had as a nurse and her education to help her as a paralegal. So that helped her create her own career as a paralegal. Now we're going to talk about independent paralegals, and this is a biggie because of the changing legal landscape. Now, independent paralegal, we're going to talk about freelance paralegals in a second. And so it's important to understand that there is a difference. They're not the same thing. An independent paralegal is a paralegal who provides services to consumers with regard to a process in which the law is involved and for whose work no lawyer is accountable. Independent paralegals they're pretty new to the profession, and they're challenging boundaries for the delivery of legal services. There's a lot of debate going on. We're going to talk about some specific laws later regulating independent paralegals, but a lot of times you have a lot of concern from attorneys when more leeway is given to paralegals to operate directly with the public. And that's what independent paralegals are. They're working directly with the public a lot of times without the supervision of attorney or oversight by an attorney. So independent paralegals, they often provide assistance directly to the public, and they offer a wide variety of services, just depending on their area of expertise. But I know here in California, we have a legal document assistant, which a lot of paralegals will do. They'll work as legal document assistants, but a lot of them have been trained as paralegals, and they do a lot of work in a lot of areas. They might provide services in various practice areas. And also services include, as I mentioned, document preparation, also referred to as scrivener services. Here in California, they're called legal document assistants. In Washington, they're limited legal license technicians, and they are given this authority to be able to do this by court rule or statutory authority, and provide information about legal system, especially to people that are proceeding pro se. So now we talked about that there's a difference between independent paralegals and freelance paralegals, and the main difference is that independent paralegals typically work directly with the public without any attorney supervision, where freelance paralegals work under the supervision of a licensed attorney, and they could provide contract work to attorneys and or other legal organization. And sometimes they even work virtually. They may work out of their own office. They may work online with the attorney, or sometimes they may even work at the attorney's office. So the difference again is that the independent paralegal is providing services to the public, where the freelance paralegal is just working on a contract basis for an attorney. So they're self-employed. They're not the employee of that particular firm or attorney. They have their own company or just work on a contractual basis with that particular attorney or firm. Now, in order to be effective at being an independent or freelance paralegal, you have to demonstrate ethics, because we're going to talk about later one of the major issues with independent and freelance paralegals. You have to be able to demonstrate that ethics and actually embody it, and be extremely disciplined, because a lot of times you may not be working in the office with the attorney, or if you have clients of your own, if you're working with the direct public, you have to be disciplined enough to stay on top of your work, and then have above average communication skills, because you're communicating. If you're working on a contract basis with the attorney, in order for that relationship to go well, you have to communicate with them effectively, especially if you're a virtual paralegal, because a lot of times your communication will be over the internet, via email or fax or whatever the case may be, or over the phone. So you have to not just have good communication skills, you have to have excellent communication skills to be an independent or freelance paralegal. And then dependable, because if you're working on a contract basis for an attorney, they're depending on you to get something done. Like, you're not in their office, so they can't, check on you and see how you're doing on a particular case or matter. They're depending on you that if they set a certain deadline, that you're going to be able to produce that work product in that timeline. So it's extremely important to be dependable when working as an independent or as a freelance paralegal. And of course, when you're an independent paralegal and you're working directly with the public, you have your own clients. Your clients are dependent on you for a lot of different issues. So if you're not dependable, you can be putting a lot of their livelihood or whatever the case may be in jeopardy. So just being dependable is extremely important. Now, there's no particular, as I know of, specialty or certifications specifically for independent or freelance paralegal, but it's a great idea to be certified by one of the major paralegal associations that offer paralegal certification, so that you can stay abreast of changes, and then you actually have some type of, you have rules and model rules and code of ethics that you have to abide by. So it's a great idea to get certified as a, with one of these organizations, or if you work in a specific practice area, to get a practice area specific certification to demonstrate your knowledge, but also to stay on top of the different changes, and then also to have some type of regulation in your conduct and how you are working with clients, because it'll give you those guidelines on how to handle different scenarios. And I believe AAPI offers a certification for paralegals. It's not the same as if you go to a school and get a paralegal certification, like an ABA approved certificate or anything like that. It's different. You're being certified as a paralegal. NALA offers one, NALS offers one, or two, because a lot of these organizations have more than one certification. NFPA also. Now, I know NALA, you can get like advanced special certifications with them, and some of these other organizations may have those also, where not only are you being certified as a paralegal, you can also get certification in a particular specialty area. And there are practice area specific certifications through organizations. I know here in San Diego we have a school here, I believe it's UCSD, where they offer it's a specialization in intellectual property. And then you also have other schools and then private companies that may offer practice area specific certifications for paralegals. So it's a good idea, again, if you're an independent or freelance paralegal, to get registered or certified with one of these organizations, again, so you have some guidelines on how to handle different scenarios with your client. Now, these are a few of the independent paralegal regulations. California, we have California Business and Professions Code 6400 regarding, they're called here legal document assistance, and then all unlawful detainer assistance. But a lot of times paralegals, because in order to be able to get those to be registered, you have to meet certain qualifications, education and experience qualifications. So a lot of times paralegals are working in these particular roles. And then also Arizona has a code regarding independent paralegals. And then Washington Supreme Court admission to practice rule, which went into effect on September 1st of 2012, discusses limited legal license technicians, and it gives individuals that are not attorneys but that have that required training and experience, it gives them the authority to be able to work directly with the public. And the difference between the rule in Washington it's different than a lot of the other rules that give paralegals or legal professionals that are not attorneys the authority to work with the public, because it not only gives them the ability to complete forms, legal documents for them. It actually gives them some limited amount of leeway to give what's considered as legal advice, where in a lot of these, I know with California, you can't give any type of guidance on forms and things of that nature, but in Washington they give you that ability to be able to do so. And then also independent paralegals can work if they're working with certain federal agencies. They can provide services directly to the public, like workers' compensation, Veterans Administration, I think is one, Social Security, the USPTO, but they have different qualifications and criteria that individuals have to meet in order to be able to do so. Now, there is ethical considerations. All paralegals have ethical considerations that they must know and follow in order to be successful in their careers. But when paralegals are working directly with the public, and when they're working on a contract basis as freelance paralegals, there is more room for them to be able to step over some boundary lines. Sometimes it gets it's a very gray area. It gets it's like a fine line sometimes. So that main issue, ethical consideration, an issue that paralegals have to be aware of when they're working as independent and freelance paralegals, is the unauthorized practice of law, because it's huge. Especially with both independent and freelance paralegals, because if a freelance paralegal is working on the direction of the attorney, but they're speaking with they're working with clients in that role, they also have to be careful of not breaching unauthorized practice of law rules. Because let's say, for example, if the paralegal is not working in the office with the attorney and they're working virtually and they speak with the client a lot, the client is going to ask at some point. They're going to run across a scenario where a client is going to ask a legal question, and a paralegal may be very versed in that area of law. The attorney might not be around because they're not working in the same office, and they may be tempted to give that advice. And so it's very important to relay that information to the attorney and let them answer those particular questions that need legal advice. So that's something to keep in mind when you're working as an independent or a freelance paralegal. So now we're going to go over some specific things that you can do in order to be able to set yourself apart, not just in a specialty area, but just to be a great paralegal. And we're going to talk about some NALA canons, and then also for the NFPA, they have some model rules. And then one particular area, when we discuss education, we're going to discuss California's rule, because we are the only state that requires paralegals to maintain continuing education. So we'll discuss that in a second, but here I just want to go over NALA's I can call this a commitment to education, and this is their canon number 6, which states that a paralegal must strive to maintain integrity and a high degree of competency through education and training with respect to professional responsibility, local rules and practice, and through continuing education in substantive areas of law to better assist the legal profession in fulfilling its duty to provide legal service. So what does all that mean? That you as a paralegal must be committed to educating yourself so that you can assist those that you are delegated whatever tasks there are for that attorney. So you have to stay abreast of changes that are going on in practice area. Rules are being amended. Technology is changing that affects certain rules. I know with cloud computing there's a change that occurred to the ABA's model rules of professional conduct because of technology changes and the implementation of cloud-based practice management systems. So just staying on top of those changes. But if you're committed to education, then you will make that a part of your career and a part of you being able to set yourself apart as a paralegal. NFPA also has a commitment to education. Their model rule of ethics and professional responsibility, EC 1.1a states that a paralegal shall achieve competency through educating, training, and work experience. So again, that's saying that a paralegal should make a effort to educate themselves, being that lifelong learner, to continuously learn, because at the end of the day, your education and your level of education is going to affect the client or that matter that you're working on, because you will know more about it if you're constantly staying abreast of change. Now, if you're not, then that's going to affect your work product. So again, you have to have a commitment to education on top of specializing or finding a career niche as a paralegal. Now, California, as I mentioned before, here in California, all the paralegals here, we have to adhere to continuing education. So it's not like with NFPA and NALA, where those are voluntary associations. So if you belong to those, then of course you have to abide by those particular rules or canon. But here in California, it's not voluntary. It's not an option. If you're working as a paralegal in the state of California, then our California Business and Professions Code section 6450D says that every 2 years, commencing on January 1st, 2007, any person that is working as a paralegal shall be required to certify the completion of 4 hours of mandatory continuing legal education in legal ethics and 4 hours of continuing legal education in general law or an area of specialized law. So this is requiring that all the paralegals or anyone that works in that role in California has to maintain these continuing education. That's a commitment to excellence. A commitment to education if you work as a paralegal here in the state of California. But again, even if you don't, and even if you do not belong to a paralegal association, if you want to set yourself apart, then you have to commit yourself to being a lifelong learner. It's impossible to be a good legal professional without continually educating yourself. Now also, you want to commit to excellence. You want to be known for having excellent work product. And here, this is a canon actually that NALA has about not a commitment to excellence. I mean, they don't call it that, but when you look at it, this is what it's asking paralegals to do. And it states that a paralegal's conduct is guided by bar associations, codes of professional responsibility, and rules of professional conduct. So again, it's asking you pretty much to adhere to the same thing that your attorney or managing attorney adheres to. Know what their bar association codes are. Know what those are and abide by those. That's a commitment to excellence. Now, NFPA also has something similar where they state that a paralegal shall perform all assignments promptly and efficiently. This is saying you need to, be efficient at what you do. Don't just do a mediocre job. Do it well and do it promptly, because clients in the legal field were driven by deadlines. And so it's not just good to be able to get the work done. You want to be excellent and get it done promptly so that you can move that matter or case along. And that's NFPA's Model Rule of Ethics and Professional Responsibility, EC 1.1c. I mentioned before that if you're working as a freelance or a independent paralegal, that you have to take the ethical consideration into mind when you're working in those roles when it comes to the unlawful practice of law. But you also, if you don't work as an independent or a freelance paralegal, you also want to make a commitment to ethics. This is NALA's Canon 9, stating that a paralegal must do all other things incidental, necessary, or expedient for the attainment of the ethics and responsibilities as defined by statute or rule of court. Make a commitment to ethics. Learn, if you're not a member of NALA or NFPA or any other paralegal association, go to their website and just kind of read over the different canons and their different model rules just to see what they are and just abide by those, and just to give you a good idea of what it takes to be an exceptional and excellent paralegal and set yourself apart. And if NFPA has Model Rule of Ethics and Professional Responsibility, EC 1.38, that discusses and deals with paralegal ethics, and it states that a paralegal shall refrain from engaging in any conduct that offends the dignity and decorum of proceedings before a court or other adjudicatory body, and shall be respectful of all rules and procedures. Just make that commitment to ethics. Follow the rules. Know what the bar rules are regarding professional conduct of the attorney that you're working under, and abide by those. So at the end of the day, you want to set yourself apart from all the other paralegals that are vying for a particular job or a particular position by determining what you want to be known for. Specialize or become an expert in a particular practice area, or find a niche area. Also commit to education, being a lifelong learner. Can make a commitment to ethics. Make a commitment to excellence, to make sure that your work product is always top notch. That will help you to set yourself apart. Embrace technology. Learn new technological practice management systems. Stay on top of those changes. Because according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, job growth in the field will stay in pace with other jobs, with an increase of 18% by 2020. Now, this is an indication of the positive contributions that paralegals make. But what you're going to find is that it's very competitive, because as this area, paralegals, that this career expands, you'll have other individuals that are joining the ranks of a paralegal. So you'll have to compete with more people. I mean, there's a new trend where there's attorneys, that are working as paralegals. It's because of the economy, and hopefully, it'll turn around soon. But now you're competing with individuals that you may not have competed against in the past. So again, finding that niche, becoming an expert, making a commitment to excellence, education, and ethics will help you to stand out in the crowd and to compete in the paralegal field. Because at the end of the day, you want to create your own success. This is what this whole summit is about. It's about creating your own success, not waiting for it to just happen, because success just doesn't happen. You have to plan for it. Because if you do not do that, what you're going to find is that you're going to become frustrated, because you're going to hit the glass ceiling. And you, as a paralegal, if you're not advancing, if you're not educating yourself, if you're not demonstrating your value, you're going to hit the glass ceiling pretty quick. Because what else is there from a paralegal? When you work in other professions, there's advancing. You can move from one position to another, but usually as a paralegal, that's what you'll stay being a paralegal, unless you decide to go to law school, whatever the case may be. So if you're not specializing learning more about a particular area, you're going to hit that glass ceiling pretty soon in your career, and you're going to be frustrated. So to create your own success, don't wait for it to happen to you. Be proactive and harness your strengths to become excellent. Because success is not a matter of what is given to you, but about harnessing your strengths and paving the way for yourself. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Here's some information. If you want to learn more about if you're in Washington, because you have to be in the state of Washington to be a limited legal licensed technician. If you want to learn more about it, on the Washington State Paralegal Association website, they have information about training available for regarding the limited legal licensed technician. I'm hoping to be able to provide some information about limited legal licensed technicians pretty soon. But in the meantime, you can learn more about it on the Washington State Paralegal Association website. And the thing, with Paralegal Rainmakers, we try to stay on top of trends that are going on. This is new. This just was implemented pretty much a year ago. And so the speaker that we had lined up is actually on the board for limited legal licensed technicians, but it's new and she's busy. We try to stay on top of these things, so sometimes there's some scheduling conflicts there. So we're hoping to set up some chat sessions so you can speak with her and get more information about that if you want ask some questions and just learn more about limited legal license technicians. Also, if you want to learn more about paralegal nurses, here's more information available on the American Association of Legal Nurse Consultants website. And again, there's the presenters that we use. We go to the experts in that area that sometimes causes some scheduling conflicts. And again, our paralegal nurse that we had signed up, she's at trial now, so we're going to try to get her presentation available to you soon. But in the meantime, their legal marketing for paralegal presentation has been made available, so you can take a look at that, and because that's another area that you can go into as a paralegal. They help with juries, like jury selection. There's a whole legal marketing is a whole area that actually is not even really considered as a career option for legal professionals. But when you're talking about juries, when you're talking about trial preparation, there's a whole process that goes into that, and you can actually specialize and become an expert in that and set yourself apart in that particular area and open up a career for yourself in legal marketing as it relates to that. So again, you can get more information about the limited legal license technicians on this link. It'll also be available on the materials page, and then learn more about paralegal nurses from the American Association of Legal Nurse Consultants. And here is our contact information here at Paralegal Rainmakers. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to email us or call us. The email address is info@prainmakers.com. There's also a contact us form on our website at www.prainmakers.com, or call 888-256-8231. And I hope that this summit provides you with information to help to specialize, or just to get an idea of how you can brand yourself as a paralegal, and not to limit yourself and keep yourself in a box as a paralegal. There's a lot of opportunities for paralegal. With the statistics I showed from the on the previous slide, showing the job growth for paralegals, the field is expanding, but as it's expanding, you have new entrants coming in, so you want to stay competitive. So set yourself apart and brand yourself as a paralegal. And I thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the information in this presentation. Have a great day.